What will happen to me after I die is a question that lingers in the back of all our minds. At some point, we're forced to contemplate what awaits us after the credits roll on this episode of Me on Planet Earth. But I'd like you to notice something. The answer to the question, what will happen to me after I die, dramatically changes depending on what you take me to be. If you take yourself to be what mainstream culture tells you, that you are a body and a mind that produces consciousness, then death is probably terrifying because it seems like the body and mind are guaranteed to die, and so that will be the end of me. Lights out. The only seeming consolation prize is, well, when it's lights out, I won't be able to think or feel anything, and so I won't care because I won't even exist. But if you take yourself to be what much of religion and spirituality tells you, that you're not just a biological drone, you're a spirit or a soul inhabiting a body, then it's not that much better either, because it's like, okay, my soul will survive the death of the body, but what then? Wandering around my house as a ghost, sent to some other realm, lost on the astral plane? What else will I be subject to? Maybe my soul can be obliterated or cast away from the rest of the universe for eternity. I hope I go to heaven because that seems cushy, and every other option seems a bit spooky. And I don't want to come back to Earth until they've sorted climate change and inscribed free pizza for all into the constitution of every country and commercialized cheap flying skateboards, because I wonder when these things are ever going to happen on my timeline. Now, I'm not saying you don't have a soul. Maybe we have multiple bodies of energy that exist on multiple dimensions simultaneously. But let's say your body died and you popped out of it like a soul. That would be something that's happening in consciousness. Whether you're flying around on the astral plane or standing in front of the pearly gates, it would all still be happening on the screen of consciousness. Is it possible that there is still something even more fundamental to who you really are? This doesn't need any belief or dogma to clearly see. Just look at your reality to see that everything that could ever happen happens in and as this consciousness. Just like whether you have a movie about a human body moving around the world or a spirit soul moving around the higher dimensions, it is all still happening on something even more fundamental, the screen. And what happens to the screen after the human in the movie dies? Nothing. What happens to the screen after the soul makes a blissful ascent to heaven and then drops back down and slams back into an earthly body? Nothing. The screen remains completely untouched and unchanged. So, what do you take yourself to be? Just a body and a mind? Just a soul in a universe? Or do you take yourself to be this screen of consciousness as which all of that happens? This is in fact the true you. And so what happens to the true you, consciousness, after your human body dies? Nothing. You remain exactly the same, just like the screen, untouched and eternally unchanging. You see, you are non-dual consciousness, appearing as all dualities. One of these dualities being the unchanging subjective experience and the ever-changing objective experience. The unchanging subjective experience is the simple presence of I am without any content, the pure space in which everything appears. You can experience this unchanging awareness if you get into a flotation tank for an hour. Eventually, you can't hear anything or see or feel anything. All forms within consciousness can disappear, and yet the formless you remains, like a boundless, dimensionless field of infinite consciousness. And then there's the other side of the duality, the constantly changing objective experience. All the forms of our life, other beings, our thoughts and imagination, our dreams and fantastic journeys in alternate dimensions, all appearances in the movie of consciousness. Because this objective experience of form is constantly and forever changing, if we are attached to any part of it, we will eventually have the fear of losing it, the grief of losing it, and suffer. But if we can see clearly that there is always this unchanging consciousness that we are in the background, that is completely undisturbed and at peace, whatever happens in the movie, whether it's a funny one, a scary one, or whether it gets switched off and everything goes to black, we can still see that we are still there as this consciousness behind it all. We can bask in the peace of knowing that what we fundamentally are is undisturbed by even the death of the body. An attachment to any part of the changing form will always result in suffering. A love for what you really are, this unchanging consciousness that gives rise to it all, is a love that will always be rewarded. And from the ultimate non-dual perspective, even this apparent duality between unchanging awareness and changing forms is itself an appearance within non-dual consciousness. In the deepest realization, the I am presence and all the forms appearing within it are recognized as not two. All is the seamless expression of non-dual consciousness. After you die, experience can continue because experience isn't dependent on a physical body, a brain, or even a consciousness that a brain is apparently producing. Experience is an appearance of you, consciousness. And so, after the end of the human experience, perhaps you can do it all over again, or choose any experience. Once a movie is ended, you can play another one if you want, right? On this channel, I generally like to talk about things that we can both verify to be true, rather than dogma or beliefs based on my own conditioning and perceptions. But I can tell you about some personal theories about what might happen in terms of possible experiences after we die. Firstly, countless near-death experience survivors testify to other realms beyond the human experience, and many of their experiences corroborate with each other. Seeing a life review, remembering many Earth lives, moving towards a bright, loving light, reunited with loved ones, or even merging with God itself. Now, it seems extremely unreasonable to write these all off by saying they're either lying or hallucinating as the brain dies. I myself have experienced what we could call multiple out-of-body experiences, so I seemingly have multiple personal experiences of existing outside of this human body. The mainstream sees our dreams as projections in our imagination, not considering that they might be glimpses of parallel lives or alternate dimensions, and real in the same way we consider this to be real. Personally, I think experience continues. In what exact way? I can't say. I have the feeling that there are parts of our individual self that exist on a higher level outside of the time and space of this particular dream. And that perhaps the whole notion of individuality breaks down once we see ourselves from a meta perspective, not bound to one physical body, but able to live many different experiences at once, all for the evolution of a higher purpose. This Earth experience feels like a school for souls, an experience that refines individual souls who can go round as many times as they like until they're ready to move on to the next level. This Earth experience for many can be pretty uncomfortable and painful sometimes. I feel like it's preparation for something much more pleasurable. Let's not forget, they say, in this world, nothing can be said to be certain, except death and taxes. But I'm sure some people have disappeared off the tax map, and it assumes that death is even real to begin with. I think death of the physical body is assumed, but these days, we can't even know that for sure. If we don't blow ourselves up in the meantime, it seems silly to think that we wouldn't have great life extension technology soon, or find out what ages us and become like immortal jellyfish. That's not to say you'd want to live on this earth forever. Perhaps you find people so annoying that an eternity with them seems like an eternal hell. But some people do, and they reckon that it might eventually get better, or it already is, depending on your beliefs and perceptions. Personally, I don't want to impose my limiting beliefs onto anything, so I guess it's up to you what to believe. One thing's for sure, that from the perspective of non-dual consciousness, what will happen to me after I die? You won't die, because you were never born either. You are this eternal consciousness that all lives appear as, and you are fundamentally and existentially safe. For more free resources, go to alexshaler.com. For inquiries about my bespoke one-on-one coaching program, go to speaktoalex.com. That's speaktoalex.com. See you in the next video. Peace.